Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Groyper Report. Tonight, we have some groundbreaking news to share with you.
Welcome to the Groyper Report. Introducing the most racist men alive. They are shutting it down as we speak. Welcome to the Groyper Report. Sexist. Racist. Phobic this, phobic that. Terrorizing women across the country. Telling them to wear clothes. Saying all women are mid. Minorities fear them. The president has them on speed dial.
Guess what? Your body, my choice.
Brought to you by Frog Aura Maxing. Brought to you by Frog. GigaChat Central, yes, thank you for asking. They all must go. Welcome to the one and only. Defending the last white men on Earth. AtlasThugged and Josh Van Der Nord. This is the Groyper Report.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the Groyper Report. I am your host, AtlasThugged, aka Aaron Shepard, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Joshua Van Der Nord.
And this is the one network not afraid to say Christ is King. Appreciate everybody for being here. Big show, although I don't want to use that too often. Don't want to take it away from Nick. We had a week in terms of everything Groyper. And the issue is it just stayed into one singular topic, and that was following Kevin Roberts' humiliation ritual. Now, we covered at the end of last week, which was the Dana Loesch was the beginning of it. It seemed to be the first podcast tour Kevin Roberts is going to be going on. And shortly thereafter, he got ripped by everybody else. And then the Washington Free Beacon also leaks the entire private meeting they're having inside of Heritage, the emergency press conference they're holding. And we watch as he's basically being told by foreign Israelis how to run this American think tank. And he said, yes, I'll take more of that. More, please. And all in all, the NTF, the National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism, despite all the apologies, they have parted ways with Heritage Foundation, and we do expect Kevin Roberts to lose his job very soon. But with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Josh. How we doing, Josh?
I'm doing very well, Atlas. Glad to be on for the official Groyper Report, episode 3, third edition. And it's kind of like you said, I mean, before we get right into it, there wasn't a whole lot of extra news to talk about this week. It was basically, like it or hate, love it or hate it. Nick loves his drama, and it was a lot of the behind the scenes Ben Shapiro stuff going on today. Not much news, a lot of the, Tucker Carlson backlash, but that's what we're here for, man. That's what was going on this week.
Yeah, no, we had, I think the best part actually was we had 3 additions. There are 3 brand new Groypers joining the ranks. They're joining the Reich, if you will. And that is Sydney Sweeney, Asmund Groyper, and Brett Cooper. So 3 Groypers are joining the ranks, actually. It's very fantastic. I was actually very thoroughly impressed with Brett Cooper coming out. But I also think there's some bad blood still from her on the Daily Wire, so I wasn't too surprised that she came out with a contrary take. But maybe we should just get started with Monday, right? I think if we revisit Monday, we got at like 9 a.m, Ben Shapiro drops a 40-minute greatest hits compilation of Nick Fuentes' supposedly worst moments. I just laughed the entire time. I thought it was pretty funny. And then they also included a bit from Tucker. But go ahead.
That was this Monday. That feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. I mean, I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but it's like you said, the greatest hits. Like Benny Johnson attempted to do that. He's like, hey, everyone post your worst Nick clips in the subtweets. And then Ben Shapiro just made a full show out of it. And it's like, guys, how out of touch can you be? This is funny. Like this is like people have been seeing this stuff on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok for months now. That's what people are here for.
Right. And what's funny is Ian Carroll actually reacted to the longer form GTA clip. If we have time, we'll get into that. But it's clear they're not understanding that the average guy, when they see Nick go on saying these things in these clips, they're laughing. They find it funny. They're like, I relate to that. Whereas Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro and everybody else in the whatever crowd you want to throw them in, they go, oh, the horror, oh, the terror, clutching their pearls as much as they can. But Nick responded to this, and we have a short clip for you. And this is kind of Nick's opening take on the response to Ben Shapiro posting his greatest clips. Here it is.
And then we'll talk about Ben Shapiro's video about me this afternoon. And if you know anything about my feud with Ben Shapiro, it's really interesting the way they operate, the way that Ben Shapiro operates. If you know anything about this feud, you know what I'm talking about. For the last 10 years, Ben Shapiro has pretended like I don't exist. Nick Fuentes, who? Even if you ask him directly about me, he won't utter my name. It's like my name itself is a curse. It's like the words Nick Fuentes are not able to be spoken aloud. That's how he is. He literally will not say my name. But today, it was a clip show. Today, it was like a full-fledged Fuentes Updates clip show. It was like America's Funniest Videos. One clip after the other. 40 minutes, no ads. That's how you know they mean business. When Ben Shapiro turns down the money from the advertisers, when Ben Shapiro doesn't do, let's say, 50 ad reads in a 50-minute video, that's how you know they mean business. He will literally do an ad read at a pro-life march. In person, he will give a speech in real life at a pro-life march about abortion, and he will stop and do an ad read for ZipRecruiter. But when you're talking about anti-Semitism, there's simply no time. There's no time. We mean business, because this is something we really care about. No ads. 40-minute video, and about 50% of it was just my clips. Fuentes this, Fuentes that. He's a Nazi, sexist, Holocaust denier. Whoa, you're sounding like, you're giving me like Bill Maher or Rachel Maddow. What is this? I thought Shapiro was against SJWs. Now he sounds like one of them. I thought he was against liberal tears and cancel culture and safe spaces. Now you sound like one of them. So first, Nick Fuentes said a sexist thing. Then he said a racist thing. Then he said a Nazi thing and an anti-Semitic thing. He's a white supremacist. It's Hillary Clinton. Racist, sexist, homophobic. It's literally the basket of deplorables clip. And so we'll go through, we'll talk about his little response. And I say little because he doesn't get views anymore. It's pathetic.
Ooh, I can't hear you, Atlas. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I was muted. That's why. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah. We were having such technical issues before the show started. I was like, Zeb, if you can hear me, please save us.
No. But that was true. We were dealing with audio difficulties for about 35 minutes straight. But, going back to it, what were your thoughts when you saw this?
Yeah, this actually reminds me of a clip. I don't know, because you said you kind of came around from the Tim Pool crowd to the Groyper crowd about 2 years ago.
Yep.
So you might remember this, but there was some drama with Ben Shapiro, I think a year ago, where it was basically this again, where Ben Shapiro was like liberal concern trolling. I can't remember the specifics necessarily, but it was one of these things that I think it was around the time Candace Owens got fired that, he basically he played his hand where it's like, okay, this, he's been saying for years, oh, I'm a champion of free speech. So he can't come out and say, cancel Nick Fuentes. Mark Levin can because, whatever. But so what he's saying is, we're not going to cancel. We're not going to cancel Nick Fuentes, but we are going to make sure he can never say anything or be heard by anyone ever again. It's called the free market, you know.
Well, that I think is the one thing that I noticed the most, which is coming out of every single one of their mouths, whether it's Dinesh D'Souza or Dana Loesch or insert any other one of these, Megyn Kelly, any one of these, you know, free for hire kind of pundits. They all start everything they are about to say with, we're not canceling Nick. Come on, we're not canceling Nick. We're just like, and then they'll give like some awkward definition that's like just explaining canceling, but with different words. And the reality is like what they are trying to do is cancel him, at least from the Conservative Party. But you were spot on with that comparison there with Ben Shapiro has done this before. And who did he do it with? Most notably, Donald Trump. In 2015, 2016, I believe it was Nick himself had posted side by side the post that Ben Shapiro had made about Nick with the one that he had made about Donald Trump. And the verbiage was almost identical. It was, say no to Trumpism, you know, say no to, you know, basically all these things that he had said. And then people forget, you know, Ben Shapiro basically tried to, you know, force Ron DeSantis in. He was like one of the last people to arrive at the Trump party, but it's wild how much time has moved on since then. I guess the overwhelming thing here is, did you even watch the full video? Did anybody watch the full video Ben Shapiro put out?
No.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I watched your video on it where you basically, I thought it was very funny the way it's like you just showed his beginning speech and then like fast forwarded all the way
Yeah.
where it was just playing the hits. One of the things Nick mentioned that I thought was funny is because I haven't watched Ben Shapiro in forever. The only time I would see anything from Daily Wire other than on Twitter or from Nick himself was like it was from those things.
Right.
But I remember seeing how they're literally like they're holding like their own version of a town hall and the guy's holding the razors. Like Andrew Klavan is like, here's the razors. Like they're just holding them as they're talking, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I love that where he's like, you know, they're like at DEFCON 2 or whatever when they're not doing ZipRecruiter and Niagara water ad reads.
Right. And I think the best part with this actually, and we're going to play the clip as well too, was his response, which was kind of like the disparity here between painting his language as being like the most monstrous thing. And I think one of the quotes he even had was, you know, if you were to just listen to this Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly, you would think that the worst thing ever happening in this country is this random kid from Chicago is saying things we don't like. You know, it's like that's the way they're kind of outplaying it. And it's the same thing with the clip there. Ben barely says anything at all. Anything that's material, at least. It's a lot of soy jacking. And I even put this on the clip too, where he's basically like, oh, the whole time he's like, oh, are you looking? Like, is everyone seeing this right now? And it's like people aren't showing up to the party. One thing I didn't have in the outline as well too is Ben Shapiro's lost like 20,000 subscribers in like a few days. I think the people are responding and kind with this. But to get to the other clip here, Nick kind of highlights the disparity between, you know, Ben Shapiro hoisting himself as a cultural conservative kind of warrior. But the reality is who is his friends? Who are the people he surrounds himself with? And one of those people is Dave Rubin, who has been at the butt end of a lot of conservative pushback, which is he purchased a child. But enough of us talking. Let's go ahead and put it up on screen here.
Out Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is a homosexual. He's in a gay marriage. And Dave Rubin has adopted children through surrogacy. That means that him or his partner artificially inseminated some woman with the intention and the purpose of eventually that woman has the child, and the child is adopted by Dave and his partner. This is evil. This is among the most evil things, short of, let's say, murder, that a person can imagine. Why is that? And it's not because of a disgust reflex. It's not because it's because you are creating a child. You are bringing a life into the world with the intention of depriving that child of their mother. Think about that. Think about what your mother means to you. Your mother is the person that loves you more than anyone else in the world. Your mother would die for you, literally take a bullet for you. There is nobody on earth, and obviously there's exceptions to this. There's people that are mentally ill. There's women that have, weird things with their children. But the default, women, mothers in particular, they come the closest to unconditional love that you will ever experience from anyone on earth. And Dave Rubin and his partner are involved in the evil of surrogacy, which is to bring a life into the world, an innocent child that had no business in any of this, never consented to this, to take that child from their mother, rip them from the womb, rip them from their mother, and say, you're with two guys now. You're with two big, hairy, sweaty guys, not your mother. What does that do to a child? What does that do to a human being? Where would we be without our mothers? You want to talk about, in one of my clips, I jokingly said, women like rough sex. That's the gist of it. I said, women like when you beat the shit out of them. I'm joking and talking about how women like rough sex. That seems to be the trend these days. I don't think that's controversial. And so they say, Nick says he loves rape. Really? Dave Rubin, this is a crime. This is like a prosecutable crime. Brought a child into the world to take the child from their mother.
So this has been a topic of discussion that I believe shouldn't be a hard moral judgment to make as a conservative, but seemingly this goes along the lines of this kind of big tent conservatism. This is partly what a lot of Charlie Kirk brought in with TPUSA, making compromises upon compromises upon compromises. But the draw there, I think, is great, which is, how is Ben Shapiro going to try to attack Nick, get him deplatformed entirely and excised out of the conservative movement, but at the same time not have that same kind of energy for Dave Rubin, who's arguably doing, and in my opinion too, something much, much worse. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts, Josh.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that in a second. The thing about real quick on surrogacy in of itself is, I think this is actually something that needs to be talked about more, just in general, aside from Nick, aside from Ben Shapiro, because, and he kind of laid it out, this is one of the most, like, think about it, like, it's not like even a gay couple is adopting a child that otherwise would just be in the system because their parents either couldn't or didn't want to take care of it. They are literally like forcefully bringing a child into the world to play mom and dad as a gay couple. This is one of these things where it's like, it's really like an IQ gate for libertarians, where they'd say, oh, well, it's your freedom or what, it's freedom to do whatever you want. We know, and which reminds me of a clip of Nick from years ago where he's talking about like the different, like drugs are on a spectrum. It's like, oh, you're against getting rid of, you're pro getting rid of drugs. What about coffee? It's like, okay, there's clearly a difference. We can have a debate on what's the best economic system. There's no debate to be had on surrogacy, or, and even at this point, homosexuality in general. But to Nick's point about Ben Shapiro is that's exactly it. Ben Shapiro is a liberal. I mean, he is. I mean, like, he's like, in the conservative movement, what are you conserving? You don't care about the browning of America. You don't care if gay dudes are like playing husband and wife, and then like basically using they're renting out someone's womb so that they can fake playing a Little House on the Prairie. What is that?
Right. Well, and I mean, even if you look at too, like the statistics as well, right? Like of gay couples who do adopt children and the rate of those children who end up getting abused later on, it's very disturbing to even think about. But it goes both ways too. Even if it was like, two moms, you're still depriving a child. You're intentionally depriving a child of one of those two elements, either a mother or a father. And we know that there are biological components to this that the father simply cannot produce, right? Especially when it comes to other smaller things like skin-to-skin contact, and breast milk, right? And so the crazy thing with this, and I'll add a little bit of context too, and maybe the people didn't even know this, because I listened a bit more to the specifics of the story with Dave Rubin, and no joke, what they did was, because they wanted to keep it in the family, they used his sister's embryos, and then he used his husband's sperm to inseminate his sister's embryo. I mean, dude, this is how disgusting this goes. And I didn't catch many people
Yo.
kind of putting that out there, but I listened to the full clip when he was with Jordan Peterson when they were exploring it. And they're talking about how he's got like a whole, I think he said like a garage full of like breast milk they've already bought from somebody. I mean, like they're basically synthetically providing all of these things. But the worst part was that I can't even imagine the sister like saying yes, like, yeah, your husband, I'll be inseminated by your husband. And I get it's outside the body, so there's nothing intimate there. But I do think the overall act, and when you see the specifics, it's very disturbing.
Dude.
Right. And it's, fact check me if I'm wrong, but that is verbatim what came out of his mouth when he was talking to Jordan Peterson. I wish I had the clip, but I'd pull it up right now, but it kind of falls outside the Groyper report.
I don't even, how do you even like, I can't even, like, how do you even ask your sister, hey, me and Sam, I don't know what Dave Rubin's husband's name, we have an idea. You want $50,000 so we can rent out your room, womb, you know?
Right. Well, it was funny because it was something about they wanted 2 kids and they wanted each one to like come from them. So I think it was, I don't know what Dave Rubin did for his, but his husband's is like using, it's like, we don't need to go much further into detail there. It's
I did joke about that a little bit on my show where I was like, what did they like rock, paper, scissors? But this is before I knew about the sister, but I was like, did they play rock, paper, scissors? It's like, okay, you first. And then you can have the firstborn. And then I'll be like my seed will be our second child. That's nuts, dude.
Well, imagine if she's married too. What would you say? Like if your wife was asked by her brother to do this, what do you say as the husband? Get out of my house. You're never
talking to your brother again. Like you're never talking to him, or you're never talking to me again. That's insane.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I can't even like put myself in the shoes. Like, how did this conversation go about? Right? Like,
well, that's like,
I don't get it.
Do these people have no shame? Like, do we even have to explain? Like, it's one of those things you can't like explain green to a blind person. I like the type of person that would be okay with that. How do you even tell them no? That's bananas, dude.
Right. That's how you know, like, humans actually are different. Like it can be all the same color, but they're clearly like differences that like I can't understand. But to move on to Tuesdays, that was basically it for Monday. Was basically Nick kind of responding to all of the Ben Shapiro stuff and didn't really need to do much because Ben kind of already did it for him. Additionally, on top of that, when we moved to Tuesday, we got one kind of major thing. The big thing that came out of there, the clip that we won't play because it's a bit long, was that Kevin Roberts basically got a list of demands. He got an ultimatum of what he needs to do since his video statement was so bad, so egregious. It was the worst thing that's ever happened since World War II. And it was to delete the video, put out a new statement, apologize, attend some of these, what do they call Shabbat dinners? Is I think what they said, and a few other things. Dinners. Yeah. And ultimately what they got was a couple guys that were on his side. I think by the name of Evan Myers, his chief of staff, came out and said, I feel like this is going to be used as a litmus test. I feel like that these dinners are going to be used as a how loyal is this person to, the state of Israel. And Victoria Coates, the vice president of Heritage, shot back and basically screamed at him. And so you can see it's clearly there's no leverage. Even Evan Myers coming out in the most kind of inoffensive way of saying like, this is kind of like against my faith, and I really fear the way you're using it will impact like my position here. And Victoria Coates basically said, how dare you talk to me like that, you stupid American? And that was basically how the conversation went.
Yeah. And something else, because I heard Nick talk about this earlier in the week. And he didn't even touch on this, which I kind of understand because he has never been a wage slave. Me being a wage slave, me being a company man, there's times where the bosses suggest things and they're really not suggesting it. It is basically here's what we want you to do. And we're not going to tell you have to do it. But if you say no, that will clearly dictate our mindset about you going forward. Right. And think about this. What they said was they're going to have weekly Shabbat dinners where they're going to educate young members of the Heritage Foundation. So imagine you're a young guy, maybe like early mid-20s working for the Heritage Foundation. Did you have Saturday plans? Not anymore. You've got to go to to Jew dinner and eat their bread and listen to, PowerPoint presentations about the Holocaust every Saturday till God knows when.
And
have fun.
In addition to this, right? So this is proceeding before we get to the leaked meeting. So we're kind of curious, how is Kevin Roberts going to respond to this? And the unfortunate aspect is he responded so poorly to this. He basically just sat there and took it. And every time somebody was coming up to him, they're basically dealing, hey, Kevin Roberts, my brother in Christ. Anyways, I think that, and they just started going into him, right? Masterclass of cowardice. So like coming up with crazy jargon to basically dog on him. But this is when Brett Cooper actually joins the scene. And Brett Cooper, because it's not just happening at the Heritage Foundation. In addition, you have Mark Levin popping off like crazy. I can barely listen to him. I can't stand him. But then you have Randy Fine and others basically going crazy. Now, Randy Fine being the most aggressive and basically coming out and saying, we've been kicked out of 109 countries and it's never been our fault. I think that blew a lot of people away, but Brett Cooper responded because Randy Fine is a very disgusting person. And this is what Brett Cooper had to say.
But this whole thing is also just frankly comical. Like, I mean, a room of 200 people coming together to shit on a podcaster. Like, this is not serious behavior. But again, who is surprised when it comes to these characters? Like Randy Fine, if you don't know who he is, he's a representative from Florida. He's the same guy who bragged about not washing his hands after he had a handshake with Netanyahu. He's repeatedly introduced bills to criminalize anti-Semitism, infringing upon free speech. I mean, he obviously, I'm sorry to say, but he obviously cares more about Israel than he does, principles like free speech. So, buddy, like my advice to you, Randy Fine, is just move to Israel at this point. Like, considering you had to go through anger management classes a few years ago, I genuinely think you would probably be happier if you just moved to Israel. And that's not a dig at him. That's just a fact. It's a nudge of encouragement. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be healthy. I think you would be happier if you just moved to Israel. You could be over there singing songs with Mike Huckabee. But this whole thing...
That set a lot more things in motion, but I'm kind of curious. I kind of gave a bit of my take on this. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I couldn't hear it, so I assume this was the clip. This was the clip where she was talking about how Randy Fine, if you feel this so strongly about Israel, why are you here? What are you doing in our Congress? Why don't you go home?
Right, exactly. Okay. And it was her pointing out. Yeah, she pointed out the anger management stuff too, which I had no idea about until then.
Yeah, so my take on that really is Brett Cooper. I mean, she worked for Daily Wire, and she might be like a kind of ditzy, what's the word, like gossip column type show, but she does get it a little bit. I mean, I'm sure working at Daily Wire, but at the same time, it goes to show, even if she knew about it before, the fact that she feels comfortable enough at this point to even bring it up in the first place, and that now she is basically kind of a litmus test of what is acceptable to say to normie conservatives, people that like think about Trump every now and then. And it's why is this like kind of fat, odious guy like talking about like 109 countries? What is that? What like first off, crazy self-report. I mean, if people didn't know about that before, just think about how it sounds. We got kicked out of 109 countries and it was never our fault. Wow, what? You did get kicked out of 109 countries?
Right. Yeah, admitting
and it wasn't your fault? Why is that? Is it though? I mean, and that's the thing. This is what I've talked about before with Zeb, is this is actually very encouraging to me, because it goes to show that these people, it's kind of like in Lord of the Rings, which I know Nick hates, but they will, like, you don't even have to defeat evil because evil defeats itself.
Right.
What was it? TPUSA apparently said, well, why don't we get Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, maybe Nick Fuentes, and Patrick Bet-David and Ben Shapiro to just sit down and have a conversation? And they're like, no, not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, like, just think about how it looks, because in their mind, it's paranoia. It's like, if we give in to them, because that's how they operate, give an inch, take a mile. If they give an inch, then they lose a mile.
Well, the crazy part was it's the identical tactics to what Seth Dillon was doing to Tucker Carlson. which was like basically sniping him, not directly challenging Tucker, not even quoting Tucker directly, right? You see anything on X, he's quoting all these other posts. He's not actually adding Tucker. And Tucker had the best response, which was like, if you want to interview him, do it your way. I did it how I wanted to. Buzz off, right? Like, and that's kind of the point, which is they're only attacking these people because they themselves won't do it. And the question is, well, why won't they do it? And I think everyone here knows they won't do it because they are afraid, right? The Starship Trooper meme, like they are afraid. And that's kind of how a lot of people view like people like Seth Dillon, Joel Berry, Ben Shapiro. Now, Joel Berry, we actually have, actual physical evidence of in a space. This happened maybe about 2 years ago or so, when Nick Fuentes had recently been allowed back onto X. And there was a major space going on. I forget what the specific topic was about. It was around Calendar Gate. It's kind of when I started getting super involved. And no joke, Nick joins the space, and you can hear it in Joel Berry's voice. It starts shaking. I'm not even joking. He starts shaking. And then he's like, my kid's doing something. See you later. And then just clicks off. And so it was obvious these people are afraid of him because that's the point. They know that their ideas will not hold water if they are tested against the America First agenda. And I think they heavily fear. And now most people are aware of this. So the next clip I'll go ahead and play. It's a shorter one as well. Asmongold, who has now become Asmund Groyper, also joined the fray, as many others seemingly are joining as this week has gone along. But here this one is.
Shapiro's side is losing massively. They are massively losing, at least on the internet. On the internet, there is an overwhelming support of America First, Israel Last policies. I think some of this is fueled by genuine anti-Semitism. Some of it is fueled by, class frustration. Some of it is fueled by just very simply like not wanting foreign countries to be involved in your country. And so anyway, this brand of conservatism, I think, is dying. It's dying.
So, Asmund Groyper, like many other, those who are kind of adjacent. Now, Asmongold's been kind of a lot more political in the last year or so than I think he ever has been. But a lot of other people are noticing this as well. And I think on X, you can see it too. Now, X is biased to a certain degree, right wing, I would say. But it's clear. Forgive me. And then you also see Ben Shapiro's losing subscribers like crazy. And that's kind of the, forgive me, in the broad sense, that's what we have going on. We have the complete civil war happening in the right wing, the conservatives, or you want to say Republican Party, America First versus Israel First. And now that it's being fleshed out, it's getting very toxic. So I'm kind of curious, do you think Asmongold's voice matters in this?
I think it absolutely does. I mean, he's a very popular guy. Like a lot of people that are young men that aren't like these days, almost all young men are political to a point, to a certain extent. Even the non-political ones, they're very few and far in between. And those ones know who Asmongold is. So this is basically this whole topic, this whole field of conversation is inescapable. And it's so interesting because, I've been watching Nick Fuentes since 2018. And so throughout that whole time, he's who, red pilled me on the Jewish question.
Right.
And from 2018 up until 2023, it just seemed like there was no hope. I mean, as a Christian, as a follower of Christ, I mean, I know there is. I know just because I don't see the end doesn't mean that, the victory isn't his. But for these problems that we face today, the outcome was uncertain. But since October 7th, this is what happened. And it's so interesting because Nick didn't surge to popularity because of anything that he did different since 2023. He surged in popularity because he was making the hard decision to talk about these things. And, ultimately, because of that, just by default, being the most prominent voice on the internet about this question. And so when Netanyahu played his hand in trying to get a land grab, they've overplayed their hand. And now the Jewish coalition here in America is doing everything they can to play pickup.
Exactly. Right, you can see the obvious establishment aspect of the neocon. You know, the pro-Zionist, the Christian Zionist crowd, the pro-Israel crowd, convulsing, and I think that kind of actually underpins a lot of where the anger comes from when people view. Like I watched The Backlash. I don't know if you watched that show at all, but it's basically David Riley, Vincent James used to be on there, the blonde chick used to be on there, and they are, you know, they're pretty much aligned with where we are, you know, for the most part, and David Riley absolutely lost it on his co-host because he felt like they were ankle biting Nick by responding to the controversial clip from last week, which was about the birthright citizenship. And I do think from what you had said, right, for so long, it had felt like there will never be any ground to be made on this issue, that it's going to forever remain in this very like small niche corner of the internet, and we'll forever have to use coded language, and we'll just have to kind of like give each other the slide eye, you know, to make sure we're picking up what we're putting down. And then Nick has positioned himself as a human wrench being thrown into the system. And now that we are making any kind of headway, I think people are being very quick to say, no judgment, no criticism at all. Let's see how far this goes. At least that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm super excited to see where things go. Because and this is this is just another point on that subject. This is to explain the point, because a lot of people, they can't think in terms of nuance. So when you say like all the it's not Zionists, it's world Jewry. They like, oh, so what? You think Jews are like a hive mind and they all like communicate in the astral plane and plan these things? It's like, no. It's not like that. And the biggest yeah, exactly. But the biggest piece of evidence to me that it's like there's not one, like Netanyahu is not in control of all of these people, is because the fact that they let Mark Levin and David Rappaport and what's the other guy's name? Mike Rappaport and David Portnoy, that their names sound so silly and similar. It's like the fact that they let these guys near a camera is bananas. Like if I were Netanyahu, I would call them and I'd be like, you need to disappear.
But that's what Charlie Kirk said.
You can come home. I'll set you up in some, I don't know, like we'll build you a mansion on top of Gazan rubble, but you need to stop putting your face on camera. You are not doing us any favors.
Right. And it's not even just them. It's like literally all of them. And what's funny is if you remember the Charlie Kirk letter, I believe it was point number 5 on there, as in his letter to Netanyahu about, you know, how to deal with this, he literally gives the advice of, I think it would be in your best interest to not use American influencers to push your message. And his argument was like, they're doing a very bad job, like they're fumbling really badly. And what's funny too is seeing Tim Pool even jump in on this. Obviously we know he's a Zionist where his money's being paid for, but he's even quote tweeting like Brandon Tatum, like, man, they're so bad at this, because it is some of the worst propaganda you'll ever see. And now we have, I mean, I saw it earlier today. Brandon Tatum wrote like Ben Shapiro's greater than Tucker Carlson. It's like, okay, say goodbye to your political career. In no way would any conservative that has any right mind or higher than a lukewarm IQ would take Ben Shapiro over Tucker Carlson. And largely for the reasons you said earlier at the show. Ben Shapiro is literally liberal. And imagine Ben Shapiro acting as if he has the authority to dictate where the right wing should move when he's not even aligned with basic Christian conservative values. It is one of the most it's nonsensical. And I think once more people begin to highlight this out in some of Ben Shapiro's positions, I would imagine Ben Shapiro is going to have a major fall from grace in the coming weeks, if not already. But in terms of one of the next clips, though, this is when we get into a bit more of the Wang half from Brett Cooper. And so we have Nick's response to Brett Cooper's kind of pushback on Randy Fine. Let me go ahead and get that up for you guys. If it works. Okay, now it's working. Here we go.
Want to send Brett Cooper a shirt. Can somebody tell me where I can send Brett Cooper the shirt? Because Brett Cooper is this week's white ass nigga going hard as fuck, officially. Brett Cooper Groyper is this week's official white ass nigga going hard as fuck. So can somebody put me in touch with her? I'm going to send her a shirt. Maybe she'll wear it. Maybe she'll wear it in a video. Hey, Brett, can you wear the shirt? Because she is officially, dude, the way that she said that, she's like, Randy Fine, you venomous cretin. Get your fat ass and go the fuck back to Israel if you don't care about the blood of our nation. I was like, what? I was like, damn. Where did that come from?
Based.
Let's go, dude.
Great. Go ahead.
So it's no secret that the people here on Nav that Zeb and I argue all the time about where is Nick in all this? Is he a Fed? And we've talked about how it seems like there's been a change in his rhetoric since Charlie Kirk was shot, and even a little bit since the Tucker Carlson interview.
Yeah.
And I basically explain it by saying, well, he's got a mass audience now, and he's cleaning up the language. He's saying the N-word a little bit less. He's trying to swear a little bit less. Then he goes and pulls that. He's like, hey, I got to clean it up for my audience. Here's my Wang half shirt. So
right.
He's not doing me any favors on Outside the Overton.
So this is what I noticed, actually. So correct me if you think it's wrong at all. What I noticed was after Charlie Kirk, it was this, forgive me, it was this cleanup operation, becoming more mainstream, getting the good optics in. And from his eulogy, right? The eulogy was the first Nick episode I watched where I was like, was that Nick Fuentes? Like, did those words come out of Nick Fuentes? But maybe that's more close to his truer position and less more of edgy. And then after the Tucker interview, I think we're starting to go backwards. And I think from Monday until all the way to Friday, you can see Nick slowly revert back to who he typically is. And especially Friday. Friday, he was ripping the super chatters apart like I imagined he would about a month ago. And so I'm curious if this kind of has shook him back into this position of, wait a minute, like F the optics. Like, look at how the stretches they will make over these simple words and lying on this. And I think that's kind of where he's at now, which is like, I'm not apologizing for what I said, because it's basically been the story of this week, which is let's 24/7 run clips of things Nick said 7 years ago playing Grand Theft Auto 5. And let's act as if like we're going to use that as leverage against him. And so that's kind of what I took away from it. And I hope he kind of keeps that. I prefer the less mainstream version of Nick. I don't know about you.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something I wanted to say. We got a couple clips, and I don't want to jump the gun here. We got about an hour and 20 minutes left in the show. But to comment on his shows since the Tucker Carlson interview, and I've noticed it a lot this week as well. Some of these moments are clearly clip farming. Like, and I'll be honest with you, the clip we played earlier where he was talking about how Ben Shapiro is virtue signaling, and then he brings up Dave Rubin and the surrogacy out of the blue. I mean, I agree with him, obviously, but like that just kind of came out of nowhere. And what I think is he's being very conscious about his image and perception now, because, sometimes like when you get 4 shows a week or 5 shows a week from Nick Fuentes, you're going to get high energy shows and low energy shows. Right. But the thing is, to me at least, and I think to most people, they're all entertaining because they're all authentic. Tired Nick, where he's just pissed off, skipping super chats, calling people idiots in the super chat section, and he's just like blazing through stories because he's bored and irritated. It's a genuine, entertaining show because he's an entertaining guy and it's genuine. And when it's high energy, when he's on a subject that he's very passionate about, that he's getting amped up about, it's really good and we all enjoy it.
Right.
I feel like a little bit like every single show since Tucker Carlson was amped up. And I feel like that's a little artificial. I feel, and you can, to me at least, you can kind of tell he's playing it up a little bit. I don't think this is a problem or anything, but that was just something I have noticed.
I don't know if I would say that it's playing up. I guess I kind of view it from the fact of this is him now. Before it was when Nick Fuentes was being kind of excised and talked about and being shat upon, not many people knew him. But now it's like he has a much bigger audience now, and now he's being shit on. And so I do think there's an element that plays on it, which is maybe people who wouldn't have said anything or added on top of it in the past are adding on top of it. Whereas before, it's like the Daily Wire writes an article, and Media Matters might run something, Media Light might run something, but then now it's like literally everyone has a take. Dina LeWesh has a take. Brett Cooper has a take. Asmongold has a take. Sydney Sweeney has a take. People who aren't even in politics have a take, right? My dog said something about Nick Fuentes, right? It's like all these things. And I do think that's probably giving him more energy, which is the pushback probably feels tenfold compared to any other time it has been in his career, because there's just that many more eyes on him now. But I was curious, because we actually are running out of time. It's going so fast. Did you want to jump ahead to anything in particular?
So we could, let me check the folder we have. Brett Cooper, legal. Did we want to address anything specific about Kevin Roberts?
So the only one I really wanted to play from the Kevin Roberts one was the Scorched Earth, when he basically kind of he gives a broad clip farming kind of take on Kevin Roberts, Mark Levin, and Randy Fine. That one was from Wednesday. The other clip we can just kind of talk about, but the point stands, which is, they keep calling him a Nazi, over and over and over again. But he makes the point back. He's like, so what? Call me a Nazi then. Millions of people are following a Nazi. So where we are now? He just flips it on its head. He's like, it's the kind of we're reaching the end of, I will step into the shoes of what you're calling me, because it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And like, that's the kind of energy that I like. Although obviously a lot of people can't handle nuance, right? They don't know. And so when somebody says that and they don't know anything about him, they're like, whoa, 911, right? They're like, somebody come get this guy. But let me go ahead and let's just swing it over here. We'll finish off Wednesday and move to Thursday and Friday. Let me grab this clip here. This was the harshest take from him, I believe, he gave in the weekdays until we got to Friday. Let me go ahead and put it up on screen here for you guys.
Roberts, you're my enemy. Okay? Kevin Roberts says, let's go win. He said, I'm going to talk to the young people. Let me tell you something, Kevin Roberts. Nobody will ever follow you because you don't inspire. Your weakness, your lassitude, your cowardice doesn't inspire anybody, least of all young men that have had everything taken from them. This bald loser gets up and says, I need to be better. I should have chose my words more carefully. Choose your words more carefully. Motherfucker, we're at war right now. You understand the stakes here? We have 50 million foreign born in this country, 50 million illegals, 50 million more foreign born that are legal. We're at war. Look at what's happening. Look what happened to Irina Zarutska. She got stabbed in the neck with a knife. Look what happened to Austin Metcalf. Got stabbed in the neck with a knife. Look what's happening in all of our major cities in public transit. Look what's happening with the carjackings. Look what happened to Charlie Kirk in that Catholic church in Minnesota. And you're getting up there and apologizing about your word choice, anti-Semitic canards? You are weak. You are a coward. You caved. You caved to this small psycho minority that, in their own words, puts a foreign country ahead of ours. They're not even Christian. You think you're going to talk to the youth of America? Good luck with that. It's never going to happen because you inspire nobody. You stand for nothing. You live on your knees and you crawl on your belly and you eat their shit. And that's why you're losing them. That's why I'm winning. Because I'm not setting plays. I'm not living on my knees to fight another day. I'm fighting. I'm speaking up. Whatever the consequences are, somebody has to. Somebody needs to tell Mark Levin he can take his fat ass and go to Israel. Somebody needs to stand up and say Randy Fine is disgusting, morally reprehensible. Damn him. Randy Fine says it's funny that children are starving in Gaza. He's smug about it. He thinks he's in any position to judge anybody, make moral judgments. You are repugnant. Randy Fine, you are repugnant. You are disgusting. You will burn in hell. And everyone agrees with me on this. Don't make them choose between me and you.
So that was some of the energy that I was like, this is the, the old Nick, right?
I don't deny that the energy is there. I don't deny that. And So I want to say this real quick. I don't know if I hope I'm not taking the thoughts out of your mouth, but
Good.
that thing he said right there at the end, don't make them pick between me and you. But it's so funny because Nick has even said this. He said this before. He was like, do you know how much damage control they could do if they just debated me? And even if I won, it would kind of reassure the people that are on the fence that, okay, maybe there's, the perception that there's like neurotic, psycho, self-obsessed people that would shatter that image that they themselves are creating. They can't help themselves. They
Right.
cannot help themselves.
And I would go back actually to what he was saying about Kevin Roberts. And I think that gets even closer to the heart of the matter. And this is what I kind of made my last video about with like the Gen Z warpath, which is I dreadfully fear, although there's nothing really I can do about it, I think it's going to happen regardless, that there is going to be a war front on the lines of age. I think that, we have race, we have gender. Age is getting ready to join that bracket of which people are fighting across the lines of. And I think he nailed it there with the reason why people don't look up to Kevin Roberts, why nobody's even heard of Kevin Roberts until we're watching him basically, lap like a good dog for all of these, Israeli spies. And what it is that's exactly it. I say this all the time. I say this when I'm in Walmart. When I'm in Walmart, I look around the store and I go, dude, there's no revolution happening anytime soon. Like, we are a broken and poisoned people. And additionally, on top of that, a lot of people in my generation, probably you included, Josh, we talked about this on the phone not too long ago. The most close I get to crashing out in an argument, or like if I'm talking of giving political positions, is with somebody who's a boomer, is with somebody who's like 50 or 60 years old, because they are so disconnected from reality. They are so outside of the pale of like what is even going on anymore, that it just becomes extremely frustrating to have a conversation with. And on top of that too, I think most young people, the Gen Z, the Zillennials, you look around and you go, well, I just turned, 24, or I just turned 23. Like, this is the world that this generation's giving us. And then you also want to stand in the way of us when we try to enact change. It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You either need to get out of the way or accept responsibility for the shit pile you gave us. And that's kind of where I think a lot of these, the anger and frustration comes from.
No, it absolutely is. And this is something that I personally deal with all the time. I've talked about how I work on a radio show. It's a conservative political talk show. So like, our business is boomers. That's quite literally what it is. And I'm not like the host, he's a great guy, but the audience, dude, like, I get on there and I give the most watered down, family friendly, yet America first takes. I will bring up, I'm like, okay, maybe getting back to the Constitution isn't working. You've been saying that since the 80s. And guess what? The people that are coming here, just say what you will about who really was behind 9/11. We know. But the official narrative is that it was Muslims. And now New York is New Yorkistan, run by Mamdani.
Right.
And it's like, okay, trying to be this like what was, I don't know, name any movie, the Help, Hidden Figures.
Right.
This whole like, we're just gonna, I'm gonna give you my seat. This come together stuff. It's not working, guys. We tried it. This doesn't mean we're hateful. This does not mean we're hateful, guys.
Right.
But we need to just accept what it is, and what it is the Constitution. We got to get rid of big government. It doesn't work. It's a myth. These aren't real problems. These aren't real solutions.
Well, I think that highlights a bit of the disconnect right there, which is, in our circles, like, anybody basically younger than like 35, we're talking about how the Constitution's a failed document. Whereas in the top of the GOP, it's going, well, we need to get back to the Constitution. And it's like, you guys are decades behind the conversation where we're having it right now. And that's only going to continue the more that they kind of want to play that political football there. Obviously, I think it's all bearing out to be very bad. And then what I will say is this too, it's kind of more of a zoomed out take. I do think that the reason why we're seeing some of the censorship we are on YouTube as it pertains to like base lore being gone, what's his name? Thanks for subscribing, by the way. What was his name? Shameless Spurg. And then there was another individual recently, Zoomer Historian, as of like a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why YouTube is beginning to knock out these channels is because they see the writing on the wall, especially after the marquee elections, which is the Democrats may be back in power in 2028, given how bad the right wing is flailing and falling apart. And also on the other aspect too, if it continues this way, this never advance and this kind of withholding the vote and acting as a monolith, you may have a huge portion of young men in this country who either don't vote or do so to send a message to the current GOP. And then we're going to get what after that, right? 4 years of Democrat leadership. I mean, say goodbye to NAV, say goodbye to, AtlasThugged, say goodbye to all of this, because YouTube's going to want to honor those who are in power. And I'm very fearful of that. It's only a few years away.
Yeah, that's something where, I respect and admire Nick's plan on this. I think, running a protest candidate, yay, against Trump in 22, I think that was a smart decision for 2022. What we got to do in 2028 is a whole different story. And it's 3 years away, so time will tell. But I genuinely am worried because think about it. Think about how bad Biden was. He was the moderate Democrat candidate in the primary.
Oh, and hate to interrupt you. I'm going to add this in there too. Think about how bad Biden is. And if you track from the approval rating, Trump's approval rating has been worse than Biden every single month. Trump has maintained a more negative approval rating than Biden did. And I think if you look right now, Trump's like negative, I don't even know what it is. It's abysmal. But Biden had better rates at this point. And we know how bad that was. But hate to interrupt. Keep going.
No. Yeah, I was pretty much done. But also, it's like I worry for 2028 because Nick actually, I don't think we have this in the clips, but Nick said in one of the super chats this week, someone was asking him, should we make a third party or should we stick with the Republicans? And he said, I would make a third party if it wasn't like logistically impossible. It takes way more money than like any of you donating to me even has.
Right.
And it's easier with where we are right now to put the pressure on Republicans to reflect America first rather than just starting a third party for 2028. But what worries me is JD Vance is weird. He is not cool. He's not funny. He's not Donald Trump. And they are going to push him. They are going to push him. And he sucks as like a candidate. It is Mitt Romney. What was the other guy? John McCain, all over again.
Yeah, no. And to that point too, I would expect a massive primary field similar to what we saw in 2015, which was like 21. There's 21 candidates along with Trump who were running, for that primary before it kind of started thinning out. And what you see is, Steve Bannon, supposedly, I've not seen any more of that, but it was supposedly leaked that he had at least applied for it. MTG has thrown it out there. Thomas Massey, I think, is going to be in the running. Rubio may separate into his own ticket. Pete Hegseth, there's been reports that Pete Hegseth may run on his own ticket since he's not going to be the VP under Vance. It's going to be Rubio. There's so much there that's like very, very uncertain. And
I know I'm like, we've all thought this, we've all heard this take, but dude, Trump ran against Rubio. What happened? Hello?
Right.
Did we forget? Hey, Jeb, where are you? Can you come back? Why don't we just get Jeb Bush in there?
Right. Exactly.
We're getting the Bush era policies. I mean, why not get the statesmanship of a Bush back in there?
Right. Exactly. And the thing is, I also expect that will damage Vance too, which is to go from such a unified like MAGA, right? We kind of like all got unified. And then to get to 2028 and it kind of all falls on its face and it splatters out. And then everybody from the Trump administration wants to run on their own ticket. I think it'll be indicative of the problems that were really there. And to your point, actually, too, with the third party, if people remember, right, RFK wasn't even on the ballot in certain places. And this was because he couldn't get the ballot access needed. And they were like, giving him the runaround there in New York and different areas. And that is part of it too, which is having to pay millions of dollars for ballot access for different aspects like that. But to get further along, as this kind of America First and Israel First civil war was playing out, one clip, which I think we're not going to get, well, we have time for it. Sydney Sweeney, Sydney Sweeney Groyper. Now, this is kind of adjacent to what was going on, but she was having an interview sit down where a lady basically wanted to give her a chance to repent for the Good Genes ad, if you will. And so I'm going to go and play the shorter version of this. But Sydney Sweeney's response has now been turned into a meme, very similar to the Anakin meme from Star Wars. Go ahead and get this pulled up here and cue the clip.
Criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
The criticism.
That's basically it. And then there's a freeze frame of her kind of having like a smug face, which I might have it froze on the right exact frame here. Let me show you. And so similar to the Padme and Anakin meme, which is, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. That was also circulating. And so I think it's just overall, at least this is what I'm taking from it. I think it's a good sign that we're seeing from Asmongold, Brett Cooper, who I wouldn't have expected to say something, now Sydney Sweeney in another element, that there's clearly this woke might not be dead, but we're less keen to answer the bell when people demand that we do. And that I think is a good sign. And I'm kind of curious, do you think the Sydney Sweeney thing really is that impactful? I kind of find it to be.
Oh, it absolutely is. And it's funny, it sucks to say, but it is a problem we're facing now, just like because of feminism. But men catering to women and at some points following women's lead is just something that has plagued mankind for all time, to a certain extent and differing in different periods. But it is kind of relieving to know that a lot of the men out there they're basically afraid to be perceived as racist. Why? Because of what women will think. White women are becoming afraid of minorities again. And that's just the case. And, in Sydney Sweeney, it's just kind of nice to see. It's like, get over yourself. Like, do you really think that, what was it? Denim jeans, they're making like white supremacist advertising.
Was it American Eagle, I think?
American Eagle, yeah. American Eagle is making white genetic superiority advertisement. And just to see the responses like, get a life.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the thing is like, I actually have a more depressing kind of take on it. And it is because it's still good. But it's still kind of depressing. Is that we know that's the Matrix, right? Just what you had said, right? The majority of men, this is another thing, right? Why men view Nick more favorably over Kevin Roberts is because there's this kind of idea that all of these men in the generation above us basically are on a dog leash, and we can watch them get yanked around by their wives. And basically everybody in my generation didn't want that, which is why you see incels blowing up like crazy or the suicide rate being way too high. And the reason why I think this is impactful is because men are going to see Sydney Sweeney do that and they're going to go, now they're going to have the confidence to do it. And I'm like, as depressing as it is, it's like Sydney Sweeney may give white men more of breathability to go, you know what? I do enjoy being white. It's kind of similar to that Boondocks meme where it's like, I don't have to do this. I'm white.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was getting at. Is it's like you see so many memes on the internet and stuff where it's like me trying to crack the liberal girl, like, oh, I love BLM or whatever, but like men don't care about that stuff. So Sydney Sweeney, also, I don't think it's as impactful as people like our side would like to think,
right.
But it is what it is at the end of the day. It is encouraging to see that, funny enough, Sydney Sweeney has more balls than Kevin Roberts, by the way.
Right.
But it's like, this whole like, are you gonna like, is this really a time where we should joke about white genetic superiority? It's like, if I want to comment on that, I will. Just like
Right.
not being like, oh my God, you're right.
Right.
How could I? How so insensitive? Get the frick out of here.
Right. Well, it's like that semantic word game where it's kind of like guilty. Like if you, no matter how you answer this question, it's like you're guilty by the premise that the reporter laid out in the question. And it's like one of these just like disgusting tactics you see all the time that journalists pull out. And something that we don't have clipped in here as well. Candace Owens had a similar interview with like this dude, one of the most hideous women I've ever seen in my life. And she was doing the same thing. It was like, so what? She said something along the lines of like, Candace was like, well, I don't think it was Tyler Robinson by himself. And I think because of this and this. And the lady was like, and what evidence of that do you have per se? Oh, well, I think it would have been that. Wouldn't you have thought that? And it's kind of like, she's not asking questions. She's asked, everything's rhetorical. She's just trying to elicit points. She's just trying to get points to Candace through questions. It's not even like, a real interview there. But Sydney Sweeney Groyper, thank you and welcome to the ranks. We will gladly have you for the time being. I guess going ahead and moving on, one of these things I guess I'll highlight here too. This isn't a clip per se, but this is a Heritage Foundation was running 24/7 billboards on trucks, similar to what you would see on a college campus. Let me see if I can just pull this up to show you guys real quick. But this is what you have here. You have Nick Fuentes being placed on a billboard. Now they had one similar with Dave Riley as well, which I noticed too. But it's basically a billboard that's meant to be driven around urban areas, painting Nick as exactly that, using his mugshot and just a quote to smear him as much as they possibly can. And,
it looks like Hugo Chavez in that, or something like.
The mugshot is like the weirdest he's ever looked. Right? It's like the way he's kind of got his face sitting. It's like he looks chubby. I mean, to be honest, not to attack him at all, but
a little bit. But they're also mogging him. I mean, if you watch like any, when we make a thumbnail for YouTube and we include someone we don't like, we try to get a picture of them where they're like, it's a bad angle that makes them look kind of dumb, and they've got Nick like mogging on him.
Right. Yeah, they're like, hey, how did you want to take this mugshot, man? They're asking him. He's like, like this. Take the angle over here. It's like, but
and also, just a quick aside.
Yeah.
The billboard trucks, that is the most obnoxious thing I can imagine. And like, if you throw speakers on them too, that is going to make me like resentful, whatever it is. If I were just an innocent bystander walking on the street, didn't know who Nick Fuentes is, didn't know who Kevin Roberts is, I'm going to be like, get this crap out of my face. I don't care about whatever you're trying to sell me.
Right. Have you been around them? Does they have many of these in South Carolina? So I never knew they were a thing until I went to Ohio State University, and literally nonstop for all hours of the day, especially on Fridays, they would have these same exact billboard trucks. Sometimes there would be a truck with a trailer holding like a one that just had one on either side for strip clubs. No joke, you would see Vanity Fair billboards plastered all over trucks, and all they would do was drive around college campus to convince the young men to go to the strip clubs and get them signed up for it. And it's just like, we are in the attention economy, so it's like it kind of makes sense, right? Anybody's trying to get your attention with literally anything, even if it's for a half second. But to think that the Heritage Foundation would go this far, given what Kevin Roberts' original statement was like, I don't even really think the guy has that much power in the end all be all. And maybe this is more so just to get the public to see what they would do to you if you attempt to do something what Kevin Roberts did, because it's just been very excessive. And I think the best point even Nick had, which I think we might have a clip of, is
before we get to
son.
that, I just want to say the last thing about the billboards before we move on is I remember seeing this a while ago where they were talking about like using drones to make ads in the sky. And it was some guy on TikTok, he clearly was a liberal, but it was one of those things where it's like I am not a hardcore capitalist. I'm a Christian and that's it. But it's like this guy was saying, he goes, if I get off of a long day of work at my wage slave job, go home, and at the end of a long day, look up in the night sky and see a Coca-Cola ad, I am becoming a terrorist. And it's I've seen ones that I don't think it's in America, but I've seen ones where it's like at the beach. I mean, part of the appeal of like the beach you go to Miami, occasionally you see those airplanes that tow the signs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just married.
And it's not offensive. It's not, but like I've seen ones where it's like pontoon boats where they have literal like 3 LED billboards on pontoon boats driving by in the beach, like in the sight line of the beach. I am swimming out there and I am stabbing whoever's driving the boat. And they're becoming shark bait.
That's kind of where we're going, and you can kind of see a little bit of that in China. Have you seen any of their air shows that they do?
That's probably where it was. I have, and listen, if that's a 4th of July thing, that's fine.
24/7. Well, let me ask you this: have you seen the food delivery robots?
I have.
Those are terrifying.
They are terrifying. But here's the thing. This is one of those double-edged sword moments. It's either the robots or like a Guatemalan immigrant. Who do you want knocking on your door?
Okay, I'm taking the robot, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I'll take the robot.
Yeah, like, and hey, if it's a pager situation, I'd rather get taken out by the DoorDash robot of doom, Sonny from iRobot, than the Guatemalan like my watch.
Well, listen, if the robot's going to attack me, it's probably going to tell me first. It's going to say, "Warning, citizen, you have criticized Israel. Step back." And I'll be like, "Oh no!" But if it's the Guatemalan,
lithium-ion battery.
If it's the Guatemalan, as soon as I'm going to be grabbing my pizza box, I'm like, "Oh, it's very warm," and I'm like, "Oh no, why do I feel warm?" And I look down. I've been stabbed in the chest. I have blood soaking in my shirt. Like, oh, okay, maybe that's not what we want to do more. But we kind of went off on a tangent. Let's get back in order. Where did you want to go to next as we're going through this week? We're still on Thursday.
We're still on Thursday. Wow.
Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney, Hassan Piker, Rise of Anti-Semitism. I don't think I've seen that one. Is that one worth watching?
Yeah. Have you not seen this clip? Yeah. So this is basically Hassan Piker and his, I didn't even know what his name is. So I put in Jew friend in the outline because I don't know who this guy is. But yeah, they have a talk about how Ben and Mark Levin are actually the reason why anti-Semitism is on the rise. So let's go to this clip here. All right, cue it up. Here we go.
41 minutes. TuckerCaust sabotages America. 800,000.
Ben, that's the length of an SVU episode. What do you
debate him? We're all noticing now. Top comment, just debate him. He'd gladly do it. Nick is going to go nuclear on Ben tonight. Ugh, I hate I hate Ben Shapiro, but I also hate this we're noticing. Like, what are you noticing? What are you noticing? Like, just I don't know. I would rather them be like openly anti-Semitic than be like, I'm beginning to notice this. Oh wow, really? The Israeli lobby is quite powerful, huh? Incredible.
I have heard that this is a real clunker. This video, as in he went out there, he swung, and he did not come close.
Ratioed hard in the comments. Right-wing pod wars are about to be wild this week. This will be Ben Shapiro's most watched video this year. Americanism, not globalism. Went straight to the comments law. In my opinion, you and Nick should do a live podcast together. Oh my God.
That's me. I'm the guy who's fans of both.
Yeah.
I love you both.
Yeah, why don't you guys get along?
I hate it when you
listen. For me, like, this is the environment that he literally created. Mark Levin, too. Like, conservative Jews have played such a major role in the development of some of these, like, pivotal anti-Semites now.
A lot of, like...
Nick Fuentes said Mark Levin is the reason why he was like, oh my God, the great replacement is happening. But also, like...
So that's basically the point there. Is that for Hassan to criticize Israel, he has to have his Jewish friend along with him to even say anything. But we're kind of agreeing, right? The broken clock can be right twice a day, right? Which is that the reason why the pushback is here is because of choices, decisions, and actions done by Ben Shapiro and his crowd. And I think that can't be denied, right? This kind of constant trying to push what's happening. It's like this rise of anti-Semitism. What they're trying to do basically is connect the Hamas element to the Palestinian element back to the right wing. So they're trying to reverse order this. It's like Ben would argue the reason why anti-Semitism is on the rise is because, you know, every city's about to implement Sharia law, and that there's just this uprising and, you know, Islamic influence. And I would agree there are uprisings of Islamic influence across the country, especially Texas and Michigan, but they don't have any institutional power, none at all. It's only like groundswell Islamic stuff. And so that is kind of the argument here. Everything goes back to Hamas for Ben. But what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean that guy that was with him was one of the most like obvious. I won't say it, but instant Judar going off. But with that being said, yeah, I think that. Well, first off, I don't get how people watch.
I want to say something so bad and I can't. I'm not going to ruin the YouTube channel.
we don't want to nuke it from orbit, but you have to tell me after the stream. But because I think I know what it is. Hassan. Of course he's playing. He's drawing within the lines. He'll criticize Judaism, but only up to a point. That's I think, and that's a big part of the reason Nick is having this meteoric rise. Even he's got to placate. It's like, oh, it sounds gay to say you're noticing. Okay, dude. All right. Go shock your dog or whatever.
Right. Yeah, go shock your dog. And which is kind of sad too, because I don't think he received any punishment for that, right? It looks like we're just kind of leaving it as is. You would have expected that Twitch would have stepped in and maybe suspended him for a day or two, or maybe would have asked for a bit more information on that. But again, it's Hassan. Rules for thee, not for me. Let's move it over.
Of course.
We'll do the last thing on Thursday, right? We'll start with Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson. We'll start there. And one thing I want to say too, because maybe some of you have noticed this, and I talked about this in my last show. This is now like the second time in like a month and a half that Megyn Kelly is receiving like the blunt of a lot of this, a lot of like the mediation. And so I can't remember specifically what it was the first time, but it was Megyn Kelly being attacked for being too kind of massaging to ideas that are like anti-Semitic. And now it's happening again. And you can see that with Ben Shapiro, as we'll get into. But it's kind of odd, like, why is Megyn Kelly, who is Megyn Kelly? And why is she like the arbiter between like the Charlie Kirks and the Nick Fuentes and the Tucker Carlsons and like the Israeli Wire crowd? Because it seems to be she has found herself like she is like the person that these people will communicate through. Now I'm kind of curious, what's Megyn Kelly's role in all this?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, Megyn Kelly who? You know, like I haven't even heard of her until recently, like really because of this Nick drama. She kind of fell off the face of the planet once Donald Trump dunked on her back in 2016, and she's no longer on Fox anymore.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, only Rosie O'Donnell.
Yours is better than mine.
But you know, what's funny about this is, I don't know if we've got so many clips from Friday, but Nick talked about this where he says these people are so out of touch. And I think that, yes, we know that Ben Shapiro has no morals. His loyalty is to his blood, to his, perceived homeland. So him pulling up all these clips of Nick that would piss off liberals is very telling, obviously. But it's also telling about where he is mentally. And that's like, 2016 and Donald Trump forced people's minds to change against their will. It shifted everything. But even still, so many of these people are basically trapped in 2008 or 2016 in Megyn Kelly's case at best, where they think calling someone, like, they still don't get it, Nazi, racist, no one cares anymore.
Right.
That doesn't, like, even when, like, I see young Black people, and I'm not even talking Black conservatives. They're just like your baseline, like, it seems like every young Black guy is a streamer now. Just one of these guys, they're like, bro, no one cares anymore. I don't care. Like, what does that even mean, man?
Right.
Like, that's just what's going on. Like, these people are so out of touch.
Yeah. And I said this, and I don't know if you agree. I don't know if anybody agrees, but this is how I kind of feel it. The way that Trump was treated, like in 2015, right? And I'm saying this as somebody who's like not a fan of Donald Trump, but now, this was the same thing that they did. It was, look what Trump said every day, every minute, every story you read in the article. It was, look at what Trump did. Look at what Trump did. And nothing would stick. Like absolutely nothing would stick. They'd come in and they'd be like, you know, you did this and this and this. And he was like, yeah, I loved it. And then the crowd cheers. You know, it's kind of like the Homelander moment where he lasers the people and then he realizes that's what they wanted the whole time.
Yeah.
I see this with Nick. I see this with like this is what's happening right now. It's like Nick is on this uprise and everyone's saying, no, the leader needs to be this person. No, it needs to be this person. No, it needs to be this person. And it's like nothing's sticking. He just keeps going. He just keeps moving the ball down the field. And that's the kind of comparison I see, which is funny, seeing the fact that Trump was the person who kind of red-pilled Nick out of the basic conservatism and into where he's at now. Isn't that kind of poetic justice that he's basically becoming the person he thought Trump was supposed to be? And I think that's just kind of cool. Maybe a bit of a historical parallel. Maybe I'm glazing too much, or in Ben Shapiro's words, glossing too much. But that's the way that I see it.
I think you're right. And so let me ask you this. I know we what do we have 40 minutes left,
Yeah.
and there's two clip we still got a little bit to cover, and there's two clips specifically I want to get
There's so
to.
many. 3-hour show.
Do you maybe one day.
Right.
Do you think we talked about this a little bit last week? What's the over under on Nick running for some type of office one day?
I would say it's got to be high. I would say high chance, just because the presidency is such a unique thing that Trump already, he already did it. He like basically walked in from the business world into politics and then sat on the throne. And given that we already have that kind of precedent already set, and given that the fact that I think people are hungry for somebody outside of the system, given Nick's a politicos who's kind of like in it adjacently, I would say, at least for me, greater than a 50% chance right now.
I would say so too. Where do you want to go to next? You want to get into the Megyn Kelly Tucker stuff a little bit?
Yeah, because I guess that's kind of going to be where we start, and it's going to take us out through the rest of Friday. And that is because, really, Megyn Kelly even didn't push back too much on Tucker. She kind of gave Tucker a chance to answer for himself, and he did. And we'll cover that clip, but it was because now, this is the way that they're all viewing it, is that Megyn Kelly and Tucker and all these people, they're just not denouncing them enough. They're not, and everyone's coming in with their opinion of like, they need to be saying this instead. It's not about asking questions. It's about getting them to say that and then pushing back on it. It's like they're all giving their idea of how they should run these interviews. And people are not happy with Megyn Kelly's even slight pushback against Tucker Carlson, but here it is. Let's go ahead and pull it up. Come on.
Nick Fuentes has said a long list of very vile things.
Big time, including attacking my dad, which was the most vile of all, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I personally have watched videos of him questioning the Holocaust, likening it to baking cookies in the oven, and there's no way you could have gotten to 6 million, seems to be his theory. He seemed to think that we've way overstated the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust. He's ripped on poor Usha Vance in the most offensive terms, which I mean, so what do you say to those people who say, why didn't you raise any of that?
Do your own interview the way that you want to do it. You're not my editor. Buzz off. I mean, I don't know. You want to go yell at Nick Fuentes? I'll give you his cell. Call him and go sit and yell at him and feel virtuous or whatever. That's up to you. I got the same thing with Putin. Why aren't you yelling at him? Okay, why? So I can show that I'm a good person? I care about what my wife thinks, my children think, and God thinks, and that's it. I don't need to prove that I'm a good person to you. You may think I'm a terrible person. Okay, I'm just doing my thing, which is I want to understand what people think. And I'm committed to that. And if you don't like it, don't watch. That's my view.
Now, this was what Kevin Roberts should have said. When they pressed him at the Heritage Foundation for his initial statement, Kevin Roberts should have came out and said, listen, you're not even American. Get out of my office. Like, that should have been how Kevin Roberts did it. Now, this is the exact reason why Ben Shapiro was basically losing his mind with Megyn Kelly. And I watched a good portion of it, I think about 40 minutes or so. I don't know if you watched it in its entirety at all. But Ben was clearly agitated. He visibly agitated with Megyn Kelly almost the entire time. He's bringing out his phone. He's like, I want to make sure I have evidence. I have the text messages right here. And then they're playing the GTA 5 clip. And he's also like cussing at her, right? And this was actually the specific point about Maduro. And so now Ben Shapiro's comparing, all these previous interviews Tucker Carlson has done, And then he's also talking about his verbiage towards Maduro, similar to how he talked about Putin. And they're talking about how Maduro is more culturally conservative than America. And Ben Shapiro immediately stops her in her tracks and he says, he basically says all that's bullshit, like who the F cares, right? Stops her in her track, pushing back. And so it shows that they are clearly fearful of the direction the conversation is going. I think it shows they're fearful that they're losing ground, and they know that they're losing ground. And before we even got to Ben Shapiro, PBD let it be known, he came out, I believe early that morning on Friday, that in fact he was actually set to have Ben Shapiro on the show. Ben Shapiro did not have the interview with PBD, and I'll let PBD explain it in his own words why that didn't happen and why Ben was so angry.
Oh, when we had BB, I would say death threats at an all-time high, no question, when BB came up. Then they agree, all right, Ben wants to come on the podcast. Then when I said, I want to have Nick on, I looked at the booking team. After Ben was confirmed, I said, if they cancel, it's because of me agreeing to have Nick on. Great. We have Nick on. I show the clips. We have the conversations. Everything takes place. Fair interview. You sound like a racist here. You sound like this here. Why are you dropping this word? So he's kind of like, even manning up. 2 weeks later, Ben Shapiro cancels. Why? Why do you cancel? So what is the brand? Why not have conversations? We're not a firebrand. We're not. Well, let's see, maybe next year. No, I'm not interested. Don't big shot yourself. It's unattractive.
That I love to see from Patrick Bet David. And I believe we have the clip here later down the line from Nick's take on it. But go ahead. What were your thoughts?
Why did Ben Shapiro cancel? Okay. I like that he basically said the quiet part out loud. That he aired this out. And he basically said, I think this is why, this wasn't like confirmed in a text message or anything. He's like, this is disgusting. I'm not going to come on because you had Nick Fuentes. It was
never do that again.
You don't like my Ben Shapiro?
No, it was too accurate. It was good.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. The chameleon powers.
My life
pretending to be a Jew, I have acquired shape-shifting as a skill set.
About through my pager across the room, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, like, which is funny because this is actually something that I'm enjoying seeing. And say what you will about, is Tucker a Fed? Is PBD a Fed? But despite what you would say about them, they are or present as moderates. And when you have the moderates coming out and saying, dude, this is a bad look. And like I say, like I think some people that are, I don't think everyone that's pro Israel is getting like is part of the $7,000 club. Like they don't need to give Glenn Beck a dime. That guy is so brainwashed. He does it for free. Right. And I think Megyn Kelly, she's just like a pretty blonde girl they threw on Fox News. She probably doesn't need anything extra to support Israel, but she's like, why are you getting upset with me for not canceling or not disavowing Candace? And like Nick said, it's like, Megyn, do you not get it? It's not about free speech. It was never about free speech.
Right.
Ben Shapiro became famous in 2015, and in 2016, he was canceling Nick. Like what? He like 1 year into Ben Shapiro's meteoric rise, he's playing God Emperor of what is allowed in conservative politics. What are we doing?
Right. Well, and I think the best thing, we'll go directly to the clip as well too. And I'm glad that you pulled this as well, because I was trying to find the clip of this. And I think it was a great message to both Megyn Kelly and PBD during this, which is you basically have through all of this and throughout the entirety of it, honestly, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and Randy Fine, their rhetoric all comes as if they are everyone's moral superior. Everything they say is like, it's as if God spoke it himself. And it's kind of in the same way you can see that's present with Megyn Kelly, the same way you can feel the energy from PBD, right? He's like, don't big shot yourself. Like you ain't, He's, you can feel it. And obviously PBD being a bit more of a man's man is kind of more willing to take on that challenge and be like, whoa, we don't have to be friends at all, brother. You gonna come in here? Let's throw around. And I just thought it was how cool is it that we're getting in the Iranian is joining the ranks. Yes, you're exactly where you should be, brother. Opposing Israel.
Well, and PBD is objectively bigger than Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
In terms of viewership, I mean, I don't know about Valuetainment versus Daily Wire, like their business numbers. But I would put my money on Valuetainment. PBD is way bigger than Ben Shapiro, and Ben Shapiro is what's the word he used? Like big shotting himself.
Yeah.
He
tried to ego him. I mean, that's literally what he did. Ben Shapiro basically tried to ego him. Oh, we'll do it again next year. Yeah. Dude, I know how that would go if I tried to have that conversation with somebody like that. It'd be like, dude, never again.
Well, and it's like even Ben Shapiro, what are you doing? Okay, he had Benjamin Netanyahu on. Then he had Nick Fuentes on. You could have the last word. And you reject that? What are you doing?
And remember, they're not trying to cancel anybody. That's the big thing to remember here. They're not trying to cancel anybody. But exactly what you said, PBD has on Netanyahu, and then has, out of any of the interviews, has the most contentious against Nick, because PBD was opposing him. It's not good enough. You have to be 100% lockstep. You can't miss a beat. Otherwise, you're anti-Semitic and you got to go. And that's just basically the way it's been. And that's what America First is about, is we are tired of dealing with these terms. We are done dealing with this kind of economy and social climate around politics. It is over. At least those are my terms. But this was Nick's kind of take on that, both the PBD and Megyn Kelly. And I'm glad you clipped this, Josh, and put it up on screen here.
You're all on notice. This is about a chilling effect. That's the strategy here. Shapiro's going around publicly and privately saying you have to prevent this from spreading. Everyone needs to know that if you embrace Nick, Tucker, and Candace, then you're on the outs. Because they need to keep everybody in line. It's like bum rushing Area 51. They can't stop all of us. And Shapiro's like, we need to shoot a couple of them, metaphorically, so the rest of them turn around. That's the goal here. And Megyn Kelly sitting there like, wait, you want me to be mad at Candace? Why? This is why. Megyn says, why are you attacking me? I love Israel. Okay, but Israel doesn't love you. You got that? You might love Israel, you might love those people, but they don't love you. They see you as an obstacle, and that's why they're trying to bully you to disavow Candace. And the same goes for Patrick Bet-David. Patrick's, and I could tell, he's a businessman. He's one of these alpha male types. He's one of those guys, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's a highly competitive, super successful guy. I could tell that PBD was he felt like a little slighted. He felt like Shapiro insulted him because Shapiro canceled on him last minute and basically said, yeah, I'm punishing you for having Nick Fuentes on. And PBD, you could tell, sort of took personal offense, said, whoa, you're big timing me? And so he was clearly a little jilted. He felt like he got snubbed. And so PBD is like, what are you doing here? And you could tell, and I say the same thing about Patrick Bet-David. Do you really fully understand it? Patrick Bet-David had on Netanyahu and everyone's attacking him. He has me on and everyone attacks him, or the Jews attack him. And he says, well, hey, we're talking to everybody. We're having conversations. He doesn't realize, maybe, that this is how it goes. And so it's very interesting to watch a Megyn Kelly, a PBD. It's interesting to see how they're chafing against the Israel.
Which I do hope that this does begin to crack open some of these people who have maybe, like PBD is kind of a unique one, right? Because he does kind of sit in conservative media, but he's not really attached to anybody's brand because he is his own thing, right? Valuetainment.
Right.
And they've brought on a wide range of guests, right? I think we even got some of the clip from the people who own Pornhub, where they were way too truthful, right? About their intentions with that and what they do and the ongoings there. But but he has people on all over the place. And I just, for the basic bit of hope that I do have, a little bit of optimism, I hope that PBD can at least move to a more Tucker Carlson position and be more open to some of this stuff and hear it out at least. But they make themselves their own enemies, right? They make the walls that they try to climb out of.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm a dyed in the wool Groyper. Well, I don't want to be blasphemous, but every knee shall bow, every tongue confess. Nick Fuentes knows what he's doing. And I said this last week even. I was critical of Nick because he's been on this meteoric rise. He's been on this podcast tour, and he hasn't been very confrontational. And it hasn't been super entertaining. And I get why he's doing it. He's trying to make the peace. He's trying to become more mainstream. I get the tact. I feel like at time he could have stuck up for himself a little bit more, but I get it. But think about it. What is today? November the 8th, 2025, Saturday, almost 2 weeks after his thing with his Tucker Carlson interview. The reaction to it from the Jewish community, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, everyone else. Look at what it has done for Nick. All he had to do was be the good guy to Patrick Bet-David, to Tucker Carlson, to Megyn Kelly, to Candace Owens, Brett Cooper. And he had to be the nice one and just sit back and wait. And they have shot themselves in the foot. I mean, think about it. Kevin Roberts, I never really even, like, I'd heard his name before, but I didn't know anything about Kevin Roberts hardly until this whole drama with Nick. And now he made a totally reasonable statement after the Tucker Carlson interview. And he has had his face shoved into the dirt and dragged through it for a week now. And they are still going to fire him. They still pulled out. And what does that look like? All he did was defend his friend. They forced him to apologize and still did not. And still it wasn't enough. What does that look like to everybody? Patrick Bet-David. What does Patrick Bet-David think about Nick now? What is he thinking about this whole dynamic between Nick and Ben?
Right.
They do it to themselves, man.
Exactly. And it's going to be all these people who kind of sit on the outside, right? I believe I saw earlier in the week, it was like Sticks, X, and Hammer threw out his full-throated support behind Nick, which was cool because I don't think they agree even at all. But I think a lot of people can begin to see like what is going on. And then you also have other elements too, like the Cartier family, right? They're a pretty big YouTube channel. They have been following this consistently because like they're just kind of, invested now because I think they had a clip that went viral when they were reacting to Nick. And so now they're kind of like, let's just keep doing it. Let's follow along as the narratives here in the story. And you have them, you have Asmongold. You have basically anybody who doesn't even have an idea what's going on. They're saying, okay, so why aren't they having a debate? Why don't they directly challenge each other? And what people don't get is like, that's how this is. It's how this goes. They're trying to beat the horse to death by doing all of these kind of side pieces, the snipes, the posting on here. Ben's going to quote, what's his name? Andrew Klavan. Andrew Klavan's going to quote Ben Shapiro. Jeremy Boring's going to make an appearance. They're all going to come out and pull out all the stops. They would do literally anything besides actually directly engage each other. And that's what we need. Even Asmongold said, this doesn't go anywhere until you guys directly engage each other. Otherwise, by Ben not taking the mantle, like Nick wins by default. He wins because everyone can see that Ben's not taking him up on his offer that he has given out multiple times. How many times has Nick challenged Tim Pool or Ben Shapiro and no one takes up the offer? Matter of fact, it was almost last week, Steven Crowder talked shit to Tucker Carlson about how to have an interview. Has Steven Crowder invited Nick on yet? Right? They just had on Myron Gaines. Has Nick been on Steven Crowder's show yet? No. It's like, you lurk long enough, you will see that this is the way that it goes. But go ahead. I want to rant too long.
To be fair, though, I don't think Steven Crowder is going to have Nick on anytime soon because for a long time, Steven Crowder has been the punching bag. He's like, whenever a super chatter is like, do this, do that. And Nick's like, you're too stupid to be here. Go watch Crowder Report. Louder with Crowder is that way. The Mug Club is free. You can go there. So, that might just be a personal thing, but
well, yeah,
yeah.
and-
I mean, you're absolutely right about the mantle being like Ben. Well, first off, I wonder how active Ben is in the political sphere, because I think basically Ben got his rise in this conservative media space, and so now he's at the dinners. Now he's in the Billionaire Square in New York City. He's at the top of his game, where he needs to be. I almost think to him the show is just beneath him at this point, which is why he's not even concerning himself with going on these things. No one watches the Ben Shapiro show. I don't know anyone who's watched Ben Shapiro. In even the boomers don't watch Ben Shapiro.
Honey, hang on, Ben Shapiro's on.
Yeah, exactly. This like wormy little well, that's a little Levini, but this the guy like ranting and raving about and cut between to like a ZipRecruiter ad.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous. No one knows who this guy is. And the only like I tweeted about this today. Mark Levin, I don't think we have the clip, but Mark Levin said on his show that Tucker reached out to him to was like, hey, if you want to debate, we can have a debate. TPUSA is offering.
I did see
and Levin
that.
was like, this is desperate. Tucker Carlson, his numbers are dropping. And I'm like, dude, no one knows who you are. Like, no one under 30 knows who Mark Levin is. The only reason anyone knows who Levin is, it happened this week because Nick Fuentes is talking about him.
Right.
That's the only reason, Mark. But that just goes to show you, man, these people, they have not only are they out of touch, but they lack self-awareness.
Right. And what's insane is like this political attack is now getting widespread. And so one thing I want to point people to the attention of is the attack on Brett Cooper now. So now we played the most kind of vulgar element of what Brett Cooper had said, which was literally not even vulgar at all. She was making very basic points. And one of them just being like the anger management thing. And then what happens, I'm sure you noticed this as well. There's all of a sudden this clip of Brett Cooper circulating about how her and her mother used to like go see a medium and like they were into spirituality. And who's pushing it? Mikhail Olsen, Bryson Gray, Seth Dillon. It's all the same usual actors. And it's just like, next thing you know, and the reason being is because Brett Cooper came out against what they were saying, the pro-Israel lobby. Brett Cooper, being an American Christian woman who doesn't live in Israel and cares about America, gave her take about the people who want America to bow down to Israel. What we get in response is that same crowd goes, let's go and find exactly what Nick said. Let's go and find what's here in the Brett Cooper file. And because they know the audience that is opposing them is the Christian audience, they go find something that's not good, like good optics for the Christian audience of Brett Cooper, and they throw that in the sphere or in the meta in the in the social media space because they're wanting to denigrate Brett Cooper's character to make her attack less impactful. This is how politics work. It is character assassination. This is the 5th generational warfare that we're in.
Absolutely. And that was bananas. Cause like I saw that clip. I remember I watched Nick's show and he was talking about how Brett Cooper weighing half, open Twitter. First thing I see, I talked to my dead brother through a medium and it's like, and she's like, she looks 14 years old. It's like,
right.
When was this? Well, clearly we know where that came from. Like Nick said, consult the filing cabinet. And he's talked about this before, how they literally have staff on Daily Wire, people that are Daily Wire. You should hire me. Not really to watch Nick's show and report on
it. He said it.
Yeah. Well, I could use the money. I'll take whatever I can get.
Just a few shekels, please.
Yeah, a few shekels. Let me. Oh, where's the quarter? Please give it to me. But,
hey, does that have ridges?
No, I couldn't help myself.
I
blacked out, and then they were gone. What were we saying about Brett? What were we talking about?
Well, so it's widespread, right? And so Brett Cooper, I think that was the most noticeable one, which was, Nick kind of gives a little bit of an endorsement of her, and then we wake up tomorrow and it's everywhere. I mean, I was just scrolling for a hot minute, and largely because the X algorithm is being paid by Israel ad dollars to do so. That's all I saw, like 4 straight tweets in a row from big accounts, all kind of quoting each other. But also, Candace Owens was not spared. And she's somebody who we've not talked about a lot, but she actually also was in Ben Shapiro's 43-minute video drop that went against first Nick, then Tucker, then lastly Candace. Additionally, Candace didn't really respond to much of that on her show until Ben Shapiro outright called her evil to Megyn Kelly. He was making the point, and now he was being very disingenuous in some of the positions he was saying that Candace did hold, and it put Megyn Kelly in a bad spot because Megyn Kelly was unwilling to say that Candace Owens is evil, and so you can see her kind of like dance back and forth. Well, Evan Kilgore, thank you for clipping this. Candace Owens responds to Ben Shapiro calling her evil. So let's take a listen.
A fact that Ben Shapiro did a lot of things behind the scenes to stop the rise of Charlie Kirk. It's a fact. Okay. Here's another text message. I have literal hundreds of them pertaining to Ben sending his YAF boys, the YAF boys, the National Review peeps that were coming after us, writing articles. The one that I showed in this little, our thumbnail here. We can show this conversation. It was a headline. Ben Shapiro's YAF launches smear campaign against Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. Hey, Charlie, wherever you are, it's happening again. It's just a smear campaign. I don't know why, but this is what Ben does. And it is also interesting that when I was telling you that Ben called Charlie and he was lamenting the fact that Charlie and I had this friendship and warning him that he shouldn't have him, Charlie felt like Ben was like throwing down like slave owner vibes. And he was just like, he thinks I like own you or something, but I'm going to show you the text messages because otherwise you'll say it didn't happen. Here we go. This was, again, everything. Ben was going on people's shows and talking down about me and Charlie. And he said, you're bigger than Ben now. I'm walking into the White House yesterday. I realized that. I said, I know, he hates it. He said, we just have to treat him like noise. He wants you to punch down to him. His respect amongst movement fighters is quite low. I feel like that's relevant right now to what Ben's doing. He wants to egg on this fight because he's lost a certain bit of respect. And then Charlie goes on, you got in his head, which is terrific. The Ben thing involves me more than he wants to admit. And then we went on, and this is the same conversation. He knows that Jon Snow, he's using a Game of Thrones reference, is stronger as the dragons fly higher. And he said it pisses him off. And he is sending his incestuous brother to go try and kill us. It's worse. He views you as my slave, 100%. Control her is what he really was saying to me when he called. So this has been, and by the way, like I said, I have hundreds of these messages. And so you have to imagine being in my position when you see someone who did everything he could to kind of stop the rise of Charlie Kirk, now trying to struggle session Megyn, who was actually a very good friend to Charlie. Charlie deeply respected her. And towards the end, obviously, she took a very principled position on telling the truth about what he was going through. And Charlie dies, and suddenly he's like, I care about this evil that could be happening. Candace is investigating who killed her friend, and she shouldn't be doing that. I mean, there's no way to spin it. What is his suggestion here? That me asking questions about Turning Point USA somehow means that I'm blaming Erica, who wasn't even working for Turning Point USA?
So that's the basis of it. Candace Owens comes out with receipts. I guess I should have given you a bit more context there. Candace Owens was showing receipts from, I believe, way back in like 2016, 2017, when she was first in the beginning of her relationship with Charlie Kirk, that showed then Charlie Kirk knew how Ben Shapiro operated. Basically, they're just basically talking shit about Ben Shapiro through text messages. And the overall point here is exactly what she had said, which is she's one of the leaders, and she's taken a lot of flack for it, for asking, questions that people don't like by pointing to people who may be, affiliated with this assassination that otherwise people don't like mentioning, hence Erica Kirk. Ben Shapiro making the stretch to say that she's evil for pushing for these things, to me, it's like he's losing the plot. And I think it's that kind of rhetoric that makes it just instantly sour and bitter, and nobody wants to watch him for it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's basically been called out of Shabbat dinner to get back on a stage and condemn people, and it's the same playbook. What's crazy to me about that story is that, like we had said earlier, Ben Shapiro had his meteoric rise in 2015. Or like from that, you've seen the clip, where he was debating that transgender person. He's like, I don't think that's appropriate. And basically after that became super famous. And then In 2016, he gets rid of Nick, but he's also trying to get rid of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was like, say what you will about him recently. In 2016, he was absolutely pro-Israel.
Yep.
And Ben Shapiro still wanted to get rid of him? What does that tell you? What does that tell you about this guy?
Right. And that's kind of the point, which is like they want 100% alignment. The reason why Ben Shapiro won't even go to even have what would probably be a contentious conversation with PBD is because they want you to be 100%. I mean, like no other iteration. And on top of that, they want you to go at their behest. They want you to do what they say specifically. And you can see that. And we might not have the clip there, but I mean, Nick nailed it when he's talking about one of the quotes from Mark Levin, right? The verbiage they use, the way they kind of come across is like they are irritated. They even have to explain themselves. Angry that you don't get it. Angry that you didn't automatically show up to the press conference loving Israel. It pisses them off that they have to talk about it even to you, right? And that kind of defines what, a lot of things we can't even get into because of YouTube. If you go deeper down, where does this come from, right? Where does this animosity come from? And you could explore that a bit on other platforms as you can get into it. Obviously, YouTube's not too friendly with that kind of stuff. But it's clear there is an animosity here. And people aren't going to take kindly to that, especially when they're not understanding like the basis of it. And it seems kind of a bit too much for what Tucker did say and what was even in the interview. It's not going to appeal to people. And I think they're only going to keep losing the youth with this kind of stuff.
Well, they should invest. And I hope they don't do this because it might help, but they should invest in finding a good-looking, young Jewish guy. Maybe he's a religious Jew, but he doesn't have the curls and he doesn't wear the yarmulke, or at least like Ben, where it just like blends in, or, he only wears it on their Sabbath.
Oh, the guy from Hassan stream.
This better be one of those like Russian Jews, like really, really. and like, because the cast of characters they have, Portnoy, what's the other guy? Rappaport, these guys suck. They're not likable. They're unpleasant. Levin and Shapiro, it is astonishing to me that like they even are allowed to speak. They have the most grating voice. I mean, just from like a broad, if they were hardcore Christian conservative people, like as a broadcaster, we can say they're not pleasant on the ears.
Right.
I mean, like
I agree.
The messaging needs
with
work,
the best
guys.
voice in radio here. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
No, well,
with the second best voice in radio.
Right. Well, I guess the question I have, and I want to get your opinion, where do we go from here? If we're not going to get, and I would bet heavily on it, if we're not going to get the Ben Shapiro Nick Fuentes debate, what is the natural end to what this current kind of narrative is right now?
I hate to say it, but assassination of some kind. Now, does that mean it's going to be literal? They've tried character. And Zeb and I had talked about this. He speculates, and like I'm not trying to, he can't defend himself here, but he's talked about this on Overton, so I'm comfortable sharing it here, which is he believes that they tried to frame the Groypers for Charlie Kirk. They came to him and he made a deal, and so they pinned it on Tyler Robinson instead. Now, I don't buy that, but that is out there. They might try and do something. Nick has talked about a false flag.
Right.
And the conversation might be it, instead of like, they don't want to debate Nick. That is obvious. So what do? They take the conversation away from just like debating it at all. Get people, have some, I mean, you got a Muslim mayor, like New York is overrun with Muslims. All you have to do is just have something crazy happen back in New York City. I don't think it would work actually, but that might be the play.
So this is something that I said a while ago, actually, at the beginning of this generational run, which was, what happens if something happens to Nick? Right? To me, like that would be the worst thing for this movement. Would be, I mean, it would lose 95% of the air in it. And that's what I'm fearful of too, because I think we know that's on the table. It's always been on the table. I mean, history would prove it's always been on the table. That I do heavily fear that that may be the event. Now, as tragic as it would be, I do think there would be an optimistic note in the fact that maybe that would be a catalyst that would absolutely, eviscerate this kind of current status quo, where men who followed him and listened to him for years knew exactly what happened, and they weren't going to sit idly by, knowing that the person that they looked up to and listened to for years was taken out because of, what he said that they were going to do, right? And so,
and
but it would
something
be
about
dangerous.
Yeah, I know. And something about Nick is he has this, he's very tuned into politics. He's very intelligent, and he's able, like anyone kind of plugged into the Groyper sphere or who just pays attention to this in general would have been able to predict the upcoming Iran war before Trump became president, as Nick did. But with that, to the point about him being assassinated, this, my point being is like, it's easy to predict that those sort of things going into the future, less so specifics about what are they going to do specifically about Nick Fuentes. And for a long time, I thought the same thing, which is they can't kill him now because of what it would catalyze in the young men that follow him.
Right.
However, that is me thinking about what I would do. What is the smart thing to do? And what we've been saying this entire stream is that they are not doing what is smart. They are doing what is like prideful to them.
Right.
They're doing what they want. And if they want to get rid of Nick, if they think it gets to a point, and they're like we just said, Ben Shapiro's desperate. He's crashing out on Megyn Kelly, pulling up text messages on this show. They're freaking out. Right. They're not thinking rationally, which scares me.
And I agree. And that would, it tracks, right? We talked about last time, a 15-year operation to pull off this pager attack, and it's public. It harms innocent people still. It's like they spent 15 years and still couldn't get like a quiet, we're only going to get our targets. No, there's still bombs going off. And so I do think there's an element there, which is they are their own worst enemy. And maybe that will be a factor in play here, which is terrifying because I think that would spell the worst for us right now. But I'll turn over to you since we're getting close on time. Let's find a final clip or two. I'll let you direct them.
If you would indulge me, because we are, as the Groyper Report, I kind of view us as the paper of record when it comes to Nick Fuentes now and what goes on with the Groypers. So something that is going on online, especially now more than ever since the Tucker interview, is Nick a Fed debate. And the truth is I don't have any evidence to show you that would sway anyone one way or the other. But since I would say we're kind of like the paper of record on this, there's two clips I want to bring up that I haven't seen clipped by anyone else. I sent them to you on Friday. They're 12 and 13.
12 and 13. You want to play 12 first?
Go 13 first.
All right. Let me get rid of some of these tabs from my computer blows up.
These are little things Nick has said about Tucker since the interview.
Okay. All right, here we go.
They're playing it all wrong. It just goes to show they still don't get it. And I don't know if Tucker was sincere when he said that he was trying to listen, or if that was like a roundabout way of he was trying to put a demonstration on. This is what's wrong with the youth. But I hope someone was actually listening because I speak for the people.
So that was a real quick thing. Go ahead and play 12 now.
Go and play 12? Okay.
Yes, please.
All right.
This one's about a minute long.
Luke sent $50. Why do you think Tucker lied about you attacking his family when speaking with Kelly?
I don't know, but I didn't like that. I honestly, I didn't like that at all. Because he did kind of lie. He said, well, Nick was attacking my family. It's like, let's back that up. First of all, you were calling me a Fed for years, publicly and privately. That's how it started, actually. We didn't have a problem until you sneakily worked with Max Blumenthal to cancel me and call me a Fed and destroy my reputation. Like, let's be clear, that's how it started. And he sort of hand waved that away in the interview, but that is the course of events. And because he was calling me a Fed, I said, well, that's pretty ironic considering your dad is in the CIA. And then he wants to shut down and say, oh, well, you're attacking my dad. I don't want to talk about that. It's like, okay, well, that's sort of relevant, isn't it? You're calling me a Fed, but your dad is in the CIA. Now I'm attacking your family. Okay, like, you're a Fed, really? Your dad's a Fed. Stop attacking my family for no reason. What? So that's a total mischaracterization of what happened, but I'll let it go. I'm not gonna beef about it, but that's not true. That's just not how it took.
And it's interesting because what wasn't in there as well, and people might not know, is Tucker's dad did pass away about 6-8 months ago.
Yeah, I think back in like April or March or something like that. The reason I wanted to include these, and I know we're limited on time here, and you got things to do and I got things to do, but the reason I wanted to include these is simply to show that, to follow up on something we had speculated on last week, which is we were talking about theories about, like, why is Nick switching up on Tucker? He was going hard against Tucker a couple months ago, like 2 months ago, and now they're all buddy-buddy. And to me, I just wanted to throw these out there because they weren't being clipped. I didn't see them anywhere else, so I clipped them and put them on my Twitter just to say, Tucker defended Nick. He said, if you want to debate Nick Fuentes, if you have a problem with how I interviewed him, you go ahead and interview him. He didn't defend really any of Nick's positions other than just like, hey, he's a person. I wanted to hear what he had to say. But with this, Nick brought up how Tucker did mischaracterize their dialogue, and that someone that super chatted Nick last week, and it goes, how come the whole beef with Tucker's dad, how come that didn't come up at all? And Nick basically said that he hinted that in their private conversation, they had brought that up and Tucker didn't want to talk about it. And Tucker himself, in a clip we showed earlier, said the most egregious thing Nick said is he brought up my dad. That's what bothered Tucker the most. So yeah. I think, like we speculated last week, Tucker does not want to be perceived as a Fed. And this whole dynamic brings that up, and he wanted to avoid that. So I think this just goes to show, I think Nick and Tucker were both getting something out of that interview. Nick was getting more views. Tucker was getting more credibility back.
Right.
And I think this goes to show that, yes, it was quid pro quo, but they're not quite as buddy-buddy as they might be both presenting to be right now.
Right. And I think that's kind of how they operate. They are two kind of very independent individuals. And people forget, Tucker Carlson said he would kick a kid's ass for bringing up his father at I think it was a TPUSA event, actually. And
yes.
Maybe it's a combination of both, maybe just hot feelings because his dad did recently pass away. But also that now that people know that, people are talking about it when it wasn't really a thing that was thrown around all the time. And maybe that is evidenced when you see, because it's not normal for Tucker to have that kind of very emotional reaction, right? He's typically a very complexly emotional guy. Now, he might have weird moments here and there, but to see him kind of react angrily like that is something I'm not very familiar with Tucker doing. And that makes me think that there is some truth there, that is an indisputable thing that, like, he just can't wrestle with. He can't kind of, like his way around. It's just a fact. And given the fact that he kind of doesn't really expand beyond it, besides like, well, he was just there. He was just in the CIA, right? We don't really know much beyond that outside of what we got from the Knicks, his expose on him. But I do know we are at the tail end of this. I do want to say, I do think the main point here is that the civil war between America first and Israel first is full. It's at its apex point right now. The fire is kicking. People are taking their sides. I hope that PBD and Megyn Kelly learned something through this experience. I hope they look at Kevin Roberts and they go, I do not want to be him. And one clip that was not in here too, that I will kind of speak over because I watched it like 4 times, was the fact that Nick Fuentes brought up Kevin Roberts in the light of if he has any children. And what would his son think about Kevin Roberts watching this? And Nick went so far as to say he would disown his father if that was his dad. And I get the feeling. I understand the sentiment, and I'm probably right there with them. I mean, that is embarrassing, and it does encapsulate how the majority of Gen Z views the men who are older than them. They view them as being on their hands and knees, crawling on their belly, being henpecked to death by women, not doing anything meaningful, watching sports ball on the weekends while this country gets raped to death by immigration, degeneracy, and porn. And that's why Nick has the appeal. But before we do go, there is one clip I want to play because I thought for me, it was one of the funniest things I've seen in a hot minute. But it made me think that the energy was back from Nick Fuentes. So this is a super chat from some random guy, and Nick gives him the full bit. So it's about 3 minutes long. But this is from Wednesday, if you didn't catch it, but I thought it was hilarious. We'll watch this clip and we'll sign off. If I can get it to pull up. Come on. But he was a legal researcher. But here we go. Here is the clip.
Safe and God bless.
Thank you.
One stupid fuck sent $300. Hi, Nick. I am a legal researcher and I have found that the original citizenship for an American is only for what is called a free white person and they were citizens of a state. For example, a Californian rather than a U.S. citizen. I give away my research online for free and I would like to offer my website and research to you and your fans free of charge. I messaged you on X. My website is www.onestupidfuck.com.
I'm literally about to crash out. You guys have no idea how much of this kind of shit I get in my P.O. box and my DMs. Get this to the president! Dude, no way. Really? This changes everything. Your groundbreaking legal research shows that all non-white people are not really citizens? Get this to the White House immediately. Can someone print this? I'm going to run to Office Depot right now and print out 1 million copies. Get this to Fox News. Fax it to the New York Times. Get this to the president. I'll get in the car now. Drive. I'm going to get in a taxi cab. What'll it be? The Capitol building and step on it. We need to get there by the morning. I'm going to be climbing the fence. Secret Service is rushing towards me. Guys, it's cool. I got it. You're never going to believe this. Secret Service tackles me to the ground. You have to read this. Get this to the president immediately. Get it to Trump. That's insane, man. Someone needs to tell you this. You're a crazy person. Let me tell you this with some, I appreciate the big super chat, but let me tell you this with some authority. You are crazy. And you need to come back to reality. Come back to us, please. Come back. We care about you. Return to reality at once, please. Promptly. I'm a legal researcher. And I took a magnifying glass and I looked at the Constitution, and it turns out that the only citizens are whites, and they're citizens of the states. Oh, man. Holy smokes. Holy fucking smokes, bro. Alert the media. Why are you sending this to me when you should be sending this to the New York Times and NBC? We interrupt this messaging. We interrupt your programming with a breaking news update at 12:48 a.m. Central Time. Groundbreaking legal research from shows that citizenship has just been revoked for 150 million Americans. Authorities are figuring out how we're going to physically remove all of them. Why do I always get the nuts?
I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I have probably watched that at least 10 times since I saw it originally. That is the appeal of Nick Fuentes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Josh for any final words, and we'll go ahead and sign off.
I had normies sending me that exact clip. That was so funny, dude. And like I'm imagining, you know the GIF, like the meme of Gandalf when he's like reading the papers. That's like what was the guy's name? Like one stupid fuck, like that, or one dumb fuck. That's him. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Well, it's funny because it does describe like a lot of the comments I get sometimes where it's like, well, and not to pick on Gen Z Groyper if he's in here, hasn't anybody run the Second Amendment? It says we can defend ourselves against a tyrannical state. And it's like, it's the same thing. It's like, oh shit, like get it to the press. Hurry, go. Dude, the way he's leaning in, he's like, hurry, take it. It's like the final scene of Star Wars when they're trying to hand over the chip in Rogue One. Like they're just trying to get it away from Vader.
Yeah. Ben Shapiro is walking down the hallway with a red lightsaber, and he's like, please take it.
Yeah.
Get this to Don.
And it's just this one legal researcher. He's like, I got the truth.
That is funny.
Dude, this is why I love watching Nick Fuentes. I appreciate everybody for being in here. Thank you for joining us. This has been the third episode of the Groyper Report. We are the one network not afraid to say Christ is King. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Where do you stand politically? Give us your political ideology.
Okay, I can say anything I want.
Yeah, bro. Say Rumble.
I don't know, the day-to-day stuff, I'm like, yeah, more bullshit. Another white girl got stabbed to death? Of course she did. What do you expect? For my politics, I just watch America First with Nick Fuentes.
Okay.
I consider myself a Groyper. Sometimes I just wait to hear Nick's take to make sure I have the right take before I make videos, you know? So, yeah, I just go with what Nick says. I just defer all my political opinions to Nick Fuentes at this point. I'm America First. I wish that we had white Christian men running the country. It's unbelievable to me that we have a government that has a policy other than America First. How does that make any sense? We pay taxes, like, use our taxes to benefit the country that we live in.